and how soon it can take off. Now, how soon it will take off is dependent on how soon they are mobilized. And we hope that in the next fortnight, maximum 1 month, they should be on the field implementing, because we've given them a timeline and time frame. And it's also in our own interest, I mean government's interest, to ensure that their mobilization is done very fast, because the prices they quoted, which were reviewed downwards actually, would also not be static because of the vagaries of fluctuation in the economy, the global economy. Well, most of these gadgets are not made in Nigeria. They have to be imported. So giving consideration to price fluctuations, it's in our best interest to ensure that they are funded, mobilized quickly, so that they start before prices begin to change and they're asking for any review. So we are looking at a month, maximum for them to be on the field. Now, as to the issue of direct benefits, in fact, the benefits are just too many, too varied and variant to start enumerating. One, I did say that this will combat unregulated mining activities, unlicensed mining operators, underreporting of even the production at mining sites. Now, your good is as good as your guess is as good as mine, because in the past, a very elementary estimate, non-scientific estimate that we did in 2023, immediately we resumed, revealed trillions that had been lost by the nation through these unregulated, underreporting, and unlicensed activities in the mining sector. Somebody mentioned gold. I should tell you how much the nation has gotten in gold. You should ask me how much the nation has lost in gold, because it's humongous. It's mind-boggling. It's unheard of. And why? Because we have a very vast territory. And that is what is also affecting even security. Nigeria is so vast. So to police every inch of our large territory is almost impossible. So all we have to do is to introduce gadgets, technological gadgets, that can enable us to see what's going on even in the remotest parts of the country. So the benefits in terms of revenue, once we identify a revenue leakage and it's plugged, what happens? The revenue starts coming into government. So it's really humongous. If we are going to go by the estimate of losses, which is in trillions, then we can accurately, or maybe fairly accurately, project the revenue that we are going to derive from all these projects when they are fully on stream. It will be mind-boggling as well. So the Bloomberg, you asked about Nigerian Mining Corporation. Yes, I did announce it, that we are going to set it up. And I'm happy to announce to you that the process of setting up is going on right now. In fact, as we are here sitting, the committee on it is meeting right in my conference room in the office. Now, the president has also graciously approved the appointment of the CEO of that company. And his name is Martins Immonite. He was headhunted from Australia. Australia is one of the biggest mining countries in the world. And from Western Australia particularly, he has been in the finance sector of mining in Australia. So all the big players, in the region and in the mining in the world, they are at his fingertips. And we had to headhunt him to come and take off this Nigerian Minerals Corporation. So it's going on very, very well. In fact, Murphy is going to midwife it, for starters. Don't forget that I announced that it will be substantially controlled or managed by the private sector. The equity structure that we have laid out will be 50% to the private sector, 25% to the government or federation, and 25% to individuals, to you who are sitting here. If anybody wants to have a share of it, there's 25% allocated to members as long as you're a citizen of Nigeria, and then 25% to government, 50% to the private sector, so that it's so designed that after us, no government would have the power or the enablement to interfere or to inject political manipulation into the running of that corporation. That's why we have structured it that way, and the president has approved it. So it's going on very, very well. Now, the other aspect about Solid Minerals Development Bank, which you mentioned, I never announced that we are going to set up a bank, Solid Minerals Development Bank. No, I said that like in other sectors, a Greek development bank, which is set up by government, this development bank, the solid minerals, there is a need for a solid minerals development bank. I did not say we are going to set it up. In fact, at the last AFNIS, African Mineral something week that we had here, I told the stakeholders and the Miners Association, I threw them the challenge. They should establish the bank themselves. They are the operators that will be procuring loans and financial assistance from the bank to expand their business. Once you allow government to begin to set up such a bank, then you are inviting political interference into the running of such corporations. I don't believe in such. So it is the operators who are going to be the beneficiaries of the bank that should set up the bank and let it be managed solely by the private sector. So it will be efficiently managed. There's no man kind of a thing. If you want to expand your business, you need a loan from the bank. You bring up your collateral, whatever the bank requires, and you get your loan. But once you allow government to start having hands in it, then you'll be like, it's from my village, it's from my town. No. So that is the idea. I never announced that we are going to start it. I threw the challenge to the private sector. The banks, they can come together and fund it. That's for that. State interference. This is a very important point. You mentioned governors are interfering in maybe banning mining activities or sealing up mining companies and all of that. I've been a running battle with the state authorities, subnational authorities on this very sensitive issue. Now, we run a federalism. At least we are called the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And there is clear separation of powers in the Constitution. There is the exclusive list which belongs to the purview of the federal government. There is a residual list which belongs to the state. And there is a concurrent. Now, the concurrent is when two interests, state and the federal, collide. But even in the concurrent, if such a collision occurs, the exclusive, the federal government takes precedence in terms of authority. So mining, minerals, whether liquid, whether solid, belongs exclusively in the purview of the federal government. I have met the governors. I've had a meeting with the governors at their secretariat here, organized by the chairman of the Governors Forum, the governor of Kwara, for me. 32 of them were present there, and I had a very robust exchange with them. And I told them, some of them even feigned ignorance of this constitutional separation of powers. And I assume that all governors have attorney generals, except those attorney generals are not living up to their billing. But I did explain to them this exclusivity of the mining sector as belonging to the purview of the federal government. And a lot of them understood. But there is a sensitivity, given the peculiarity of our environment, political environment, social environment, cultural environment, which we recognize. And I particularly would not be the one to heat up the polity unnecessarily. I've had a lot, of course, even from the media, calling on me to confront this governor, confront that governor. That is not how to do it. I rather will engage with them. Each of the governors that has come up with such outlandish policies and all that, I've had to call I've had to engage with, I have to enlighten, educate in some instances, and we've been able to resolve all these contentious issues. So the engagement is a continuous process. However, because of the sensitivity, like I told you, we are willing to bend over backwards, and we have done so. And I told the governors when I met them, now we know that you own the soil, you own the land according to the land use decree. States own the land. Now, a potential miner will need to obtain the consent of the host community, a letter of consent, which is a requirement for titling, for us approving titles, licenses. Now, that now gives some room for the states to exercise or exert some authority over land. However, the Nigerian Mining Act 207 also stipulates that wherever there is mineral, that particular spot now belongs to the federal government. So that also removes the authority of the state. But even then, we are not going by that. We want to accommodate everybody. So I announced to the governors that, look, you have this land, you have the minerals situated in your various states. Now, what stops you as a state from forming an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, like a company, to apply for mining license of a site in your own state, and I will approve? So as to get them involved, give them a sense of belonging. So it is not an us versus them situation, because this is a commonwealth for all of us. And we want the host communities to benefit, we want the state to benefit, and the federal government to benefit, which cuts across all Nigerians. And they bought into it. In the last count, so many of them have applied, have approved their licenses for them. Any state that applies for a license to operate, I approve immediately. And Mr. President gave me the approval to give them the licenses. And it's even better for us because they own the land, they operate on their land, so they are going to be more, they will operate in a more environmentally sustainable manner because they will not want to damage or degrade their own environment by themselves. So it's a win-win situation, and they are applying, and we are approving. So that situation of interference is subsiding. There are some that are on security, like the plateau. You know, there were killings and all of that. And I told them, if there is an infraction in your state and you need to take action, you consult us. You cannot take the action constitutionally. You report to us, we investigate. I work closely with the NSA on this issue. I work very closely with the Ministry of Defense. I'm sure you would have seen their pictures in my office coming to see me, Minister of Defense, this and that. It's on this security issue. So when they report to us, we'll investigate. We will now be the ones to take action or ask them to take the action because they are on the spot, you know, and they are nearer the epicenter rather than the federal. But it will have the federal government's cover. So these are going on and it's subsiding. The number of foreigners apprehended, at the last count, we've had about 4. I wouldn't want to mention the nationalities, but they are foreigners. They've been apprehended, in fact, prosecuted and convicted. And the mines marshals in the last couple of months have apprehended over 320 illegal operators. Out of this, about 150 are undergoing prosecution as we sit, and about 9 have been convicted fully, while about 4 foreigners have also been convicted fully. So the work is going on pari passu with the technology that we want to introduce. Thank you.
One was approval for the award of contract for the dualization of Oduopani E2, spur at Idendem Etam in Ekote Bene Road in Cross River and Akwa Ibom State. And the total amount is 55 billion in favor of Raycon Construction Nigeria Limited. The next one is the approval for the award of contract for the dualization of Ibadan Elori Road, Section 2, which is in Oyo Ogbomosho in Oyo State. You had asked questions about this road. God has helped it to come to be approved. It's 147 kilometers in favor of JRBs to be constructed on a reinforced concrete pavement. You have another one, approval for the completion of outstanding of Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria, Kano route. This time is section 2. That's 82 kilometers by 2. That's 164 kilometers. And it's awarded for 507 billion. And then the last one is the construction of a flyover at Abakpa, bordering 82 Division, Enugu. The flyover is to be constructed to relieve, traffic jam there. And the contractor is FEC, and the amount is 24 billion. The Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria, Kano Section 2, the contractor that is doing Section 1 and 3 competitively won the Section 2, and that is InfoWest, not InfoQuest, InfoWest Nigeria Limited. That's what we have. And let me, use 1 minute to correct, an impression created in the Senate. There was a time we awarded some projects, and we came here to say these were the projects that FEC approved. And the senator raised, motion in the House. I have it here, alluding that more projects were, approved in the, in the South than in the North. Let me correct that impression because I'm not qualified to write to the Senate President to correct it. But the fact remains that it is the memo that comes to FEC that is approved. Sometimes, the memo can be in favor of a particular region or a particular zone or so on and so forth. So our briefing here should not be taken for as if we are bringing projects in an equitably form. A project may go to BPP and they are processing it. It's not like today. We have a total of 507 billion, and that is for Abuja, Kano section. And of course, in my own zone, you have only 24 billion. So if tomorrow you bring something that is big, from Southeast, nobody should start saying so. The president is committed to completing all the inherited projects. And in any case, most of the projects we come here to announce, inherited projects, and that the president is continuing. And if you go back to look at the heritage projects, they were not even equitably, distributed by the last administration. But the president did not mind; he's still continuing all of them. Thank you. Where we have the power plant and then ending at Cross River, there are 3 sections that we inherited. One is CCECC. That's the first one coming from Akwa Ibom. The second one is Beja. Beja had about 27 kilometers there, and then now went onto Cross River, and then had about 17 kilometers. And then you had the last one, which is Samatek. So when we came on board, there was a need to review all the projects. And so whereas the 2 other contractors, CCACC and Samatek, accepted the review, Beja insisted that the project should be reviewed up to 109-something billion. And that warranted our terminating it. That project is being re-procured, through selective, competitive bidding. And this recon won it, 55 billion, as against 190-something billion. So that there were 3 sections, yeah. Yes. I'm not sure we are talking the same thing because we have, the capital city project that gets to Maraba, and it's at Maraba that our project starts because we don't do projects within the FCT. So at Maraba to Kefi is our job. It's 48 kilometers. It was awarded to China Harbor under an NPC tax credit, and that is for the 2 carriageways. So when we came on board, we saw the amount available in an NPC. So we decided to, do palliative on the Abuja bound, and then we took over the Kefi bound, Makurdi bound, and we are reconstructing it. The drainage are gone. We are reconstructing it, putting concrete pavement at the shoulders, and then putting milling the asphalt and putting 60 binder and 40 wearing. And it's a sight to behold. When we were there last 2 weeks, I directed them to come to the Maraba section of it because it's bad, but we said you can only walk because that's where the market is situated. So that project is going on very well, unless if it's a different thing altogether. then it's no. So you try and meet me in the office, I beg. No, it's 147 billion, not kilometer.
Yes, Chairman, the last one for the Minister of Works.